The UFC world is ablaze with drama and anticipation as fighters, fans, and executives alike find themselves swept up in a whirlwind of taunts, challenges, and high-stakes matchups, beginning with Dricus du Plessis seizing upon a bombshell report that Nasruddin Imavov had been designated as the official backup for Khamzat Chimaev's middleweight title defense at UFC 319 in Chicago, an announcement that du Plessis couldn't resist mocking by reposting Imavov's photo on his Instagram story with the cheeky caption, "Guess I'm fighting Nasruddin Imavov," a jab that cut deep by reminding viewers of Chimaev's unsettling pattern of withdrawals, first bowing out of a short-notice bout against Robert Whittaker in Saudi Arabia last summer due to illness, then postponing his showdown with Leon Edwards multiple times because of unspecified health concerns, casting doubt on whether the man once billed as MMA's next unstoppable force can actually make it to fight night without another last-minute exit, and leaving fans to wonder if Chimaev's meteoric rise will ultimately be defined by his performance inside the octagon or by the controversies that swirl around him like a storm, especially now as du Plessis's playful trolling threatens to light a fire under Chimaev to finally silence the skeptics with a fight camp free of distractions and a performance that reminds the world why he captivated audiences in the first place, though only time will tell if the mystic Mac aura can survive the weight of expectation and the sting of du Plessis's public ribbing. Meanwhile, in the light heavyweight division, Magomed Ankalaev has made clear that he is tired of waiting for a worthy opponent, taking to social media to publicly call out former champions Alex Pereira and Jiří Procházka and lament that "all the guys turned me down during International Fight Week," a statement that underscored his frustration after months of training, dieting, and promoting for what he presumed would be the next big title eliminator on the UFC 317 card, only to have his offers rebuffed. Pereira's silence has only deepened the intrigue, while Procházka later told a Czech sports outlet that he was forced to decline due to crucial exams for his security and strategic studies degree, a surprising academic detour for a fighter who once held the light heavyweight championship and whose refusal has left Ankalaev pacing impatiently, publicly demanding to know if there is anyone in the division with the courage or the calendar to step up and silence his rising voice, a scenario that has set matchmaking pundits abuzz as they speculate whether the UFC will turn to veterans coming off lost streaks or unheralded prospects eager for a chance to stake their own claim by facing a fighter as hungry and outspoken as Ankalaev.
Да, я думаю, следующий Перейра, если даже не будет следующим, я его загоню в угол, чтобы у него выхода не было другого.
Yes, I think it's going to be Alex Pereira. That's the next fight. But if it's not, I will do whatever to corner him that he has no...
Shifting down to welterweight, Shawn Brady's recent revelations about his interaction with Ian Garry at UFC 315 have fanned the flames of what some consider the next must-see eliminator, with Brady recounting on his Brady Bag Show podcast how, at the conclusion of Garry's impressive victory over Carlos Prates, he spotted Garry seated at the end of one of the rows, leaned over as the cameras still rolled, and asked him, "What do you think?" Like who? To which Brady replied without hesitation, "Me and you," sealing in words what many fans had already deduced by looking at the rankings, that the young Irishman riding a wave of momentum and the gritty American with a highlight reel win over Leon Edwards are the two most obvious stepping stones to a shot at the welterweight throne now that Islam Makhachev has officially signaled his move up to 170 pounds and Shavkat Rakhmonov is widely expected to get the next title shot, a confluence of factors that means the winner of the Brady versus Garry showdown would not only solidify their contender status, but likely force the UFC's hand to grant them a title bout, a dynamic that has led pundits to predict the fight could be booked as soon as late summer or early fall, because in a division as crowded and talent-rich as welterweight, sometimes the most compelling narratives emerge from the simplest questions. Who truly deserves the shot? In another corner of the MMA landscape, Ariel Helwani provided a dose of breaking news when he reported that Bellator bantamweight champion Patchy has inked a deal with the UFC and is being eyed as the front-runner to step in on short notice against Mario Bautista at UFC 316 after Cheto Vera was forced to withdraw, a revelation that dropped like a bombshell given Mix's sterling reputation in the Professional Fighters League and his recent departure from the PFL after mutually agreeing not to extend his contract, a split described by the league as best for both parties, even as it confirmed that Mix is moving on. If Mix does indeed step into the octagon in early June, he'll be presented with a high-pressure opportunity to vault straight into the UFC's top 10 bantamweight rankings by defeating the number 10 ranked Bautista, an achievement that would mark one of the fastest ascensions in UFC history and reinforce the notion that the PFL to UFC pipeline has become a proving ground for ex-Bellator and ex-PFL standouts seeking to test their skills against the world's deepest talent pool, a storyline that underscores the ever-increasing fluidity of fighter movement between organizations and the UFC's eagerness to capitalize on available talent, no matter how last-minute the circumstances. While the buzz around potential matchups and signings continues to build, the promotional machine is also turning full speed toward upcoming fight cards loaded with bouts that promise to test seasoned veterans and rising prospects alike.
Yeah, that's one. If you've grappled with me, you've most likely been hit with that guillotine. So that's definitely in my top, like, 1 to 2 submissions right there for sure.
And you probably know this by now, but your number one fan is currently Bilal Muhammad.
In July, Donald "Cowboy" Cerrone's long-awaited showdown with rising star Paddy Pimblet at UFC Fight Night London has fans on the edge of their seats, imagining the veteran's honed grappling and lightning-fast leg kicks clashing with Pimblet's unorthodox striking and social media savviness, with both fighters looking to make a statement in front of an electric O2 Arena crowd. On the very same card, Derek Lewis will attempt to revive his knockout streak against undefeated Tales Terra, a man whose knockout power and unblemished record have earned him a growing fanbase and a reputation as a giant killer in the heavyweight ranks, setting up a classic clash of the hulking veteran with the fearless newcomer. Then, at UFC 318, Magomed Ankalaev, riding high off a decisive win over Andre Munhoz, will face Bruno Silva, a submission specialist seeking to rebound from a narrow loss in March, while Amanda Ribas aims to snap her 2-fight skid against the tough and technical Tabatha Ricci. Later in August at UFC Vegas 108, flyweights Amir Albazi and Tatsuro Taira will meet in a rematch of styles as Albazi battles to recover form after his defeat to Brandon Moreno, and Taira looks to prove that his last loss was merely a stepping stone toward future success, a flyweight scrap that could shake up the 125-pound hierarchy if either man can deliver a performance worthy of pay-per-view highlight reels. In a twist that reaches beyond MMA, combat sports icon Holly Holm is slated to return to her roots in boxing this June on the Jake Paul vs. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. undercard, marking her first professional bout since 2013 when she held dual IBA and WBF female light welterweight titles. A transition that fans and analysts view as both a full-circle moment for Holm, whose head-kick knockout of Ronda Rousey helped propel women's MMA into the mainstream, and a strategic alliance with the burgeoning celebrity boxing scene, one that promises to expose her legendary striking and tactical prowess to a new audience while providing the perfect backdrop for Paul's high-stakes boxing venture. Rumor has it that negotiations have been underway since April, and while details of her opponent remain tightly guarded, the pairing represents a tantalizing blend of boxing pedigree and crossover appeal that could redefine the parameters of success for fighters seeking to navigate multiple combat disciplines. Back in the octagon, a heated feud has erupted between Benoat Santini and Matteos Gamro following their brief exchange at UFC 315, where Santini claimed post-fight that he never received an offer to face Gamro despite fans and insiders insisting otherwise. Gamro responded by reposting Santini's comments with a laughing emoji and publicly questioning his rival's integrity, while UFC insider Cody Dolan backed up Gamrot's side by asserting that Santini indeed turned down the fight, creating a combustible situation that has fans clamoring for the matchup to be made official so that the dispute can be settled by fists and grappling rather than text threads and press clips, highlighting how personal pride and professional negotiation can collide in the high-pressure environment of elite MMA matchmaking.
Do you think your wrestling is better than Islam's wrestling?
I think so. We'll see. I have to meet him in the octagon and fight with him, and then we get the answer who is better wrestler. But
Adding fuel to the UFC's legacy debates, former champion Aljamain Sterling weighed in on the question of whether Islam Makhachev has already eclipsed the legacy of his mentor and friend Khabib Nurmagomedov, pointing to Makhachev's record-setting consecutive lightweight title defenses and the high caliber of opponents he's defeated as evidence that he has already climbed higher on the lightweight mountaintop, a viewpoint Sterling aired in a recent video segment on his YouTube channel where he meticulously compared fight tallies, submission finishes, and championship sequences, provoking both agreement and dissent from fans who argue that legacy is about more than numbers, that it's also about charisma, impact, and the dramatic moments that live on in highlight reels, while others counter that Makhachev's dominant wrestling base and patient striking have ushered in a new era of championship excellence that arguably surpasses the high-octane brilliance of Khabib's unblemished reign. In the same breath, Gilbert Burns joined the chorus of commentary by publicly endorsing Makhachev's decision to vacate his 155 55-pound title and move up to welterweight, arguing that Makhachev's frame and training style have long indicated a natural progression toward 170 pounds and that the move will not only revitalize his career, but also inject fresh excitement into the welterweight division, where the presence of fighters like Jorge Masvidal and rising contenders ensures that Makhachev's debut at 170 will be met with massive anticipation and headline potential, with Burns himself predicting that Makhachev will return to action by September, setting the stage for a blockbuster main event that could include a clash with game-bred Masvidal or another top-5 contender looking to prove their mettle against a fighter who has quietly ascended to the top of the pound-for-pound rankings.
One guy that keeps talking about you also is Ilia Topuria. Do you have a message for him? He really wants to fight you next year.
No, man. I'm tired to give chance the small guys, you know. I need to...
Yet perhaps no storyline has captured the imaginations of MMA enthusiasts more than the social media war of words between Ilia Topuria and Islam Makhachev following Dana White's announcement of Makhachev's foray into the welterweight ranks. Topuria kicked things off with a provocative tweet declaring that on June 28th, a new lightweight dynasty will be born with him, reclaiming the belt and apologizing in advance to Charles Oliveira while accusing Makhachev of having run away at 17-0, a move that set off a chain reaction of barbed comments and press conference soundbites, with Topuria accusing Makhachev and his manager Ali Abdelaziz of hypocrisy and cowardice for allegedly ducking him when he was the underdog, then Makhachev firing back on Twitter by deriding Topuria's resume, calling him a big mouth from Spain with a nice haircut but no signature wins, challenging him to prove his words with wins over ranked contenders, a confrontation that has fans clamoring for the dream showdown and pundits speculating whether the UFC will bend the matchmaking rules, perhaps scheduling Topuria versus Charles Oliveira in July and Makhachev versus Jorge Masvidal in September to ensure that if both prevail, the blockbuster clash between the two trash-talking titans can be booked for early 2026, a scenario that would pit two of the sport's most polarizing personalities against each other in what many are calling the fight of the decade.
Very thankful from the whole energy I feel since the first day I came here to Sydney. Like the people were very kind with all of us, so amazing place. Everything we have to say to Australian people is that thank you very much for it.
All the while, voices like Khamzat Chimaev, currently sidelined but ever watchful, have weighed in on the Topuria versus Makhachev debate, calling it the most talked about matchup and admitting that as a fan he would tune in, a testament to how the sport's greatest narratives often arise not just from title fights, but from the tangled web of social media feuds, personal vendettas, and professional ambitions that unfold in real time for fans to witness and dissect. In this era of instant communication and endless speculation, a single tweet, Instagram story, or press conference soundbite can spark a rivalry that burns brighter than any championship belt. And as the UFC's summer schedule heats up with must-see bouts, last-minute signings, and legacy debates, fans will find themselves as much enthralled by the stories swirling around the octagon as by the fights themselves, waiting with bated breath to see which taunt will lead to a knockout, which declined challenge will force a sleeper contender to prove their worth, and which rising star will seize their moment in the spotlight, ensuring that every night of fight action is underscored by a narrative as compelling as any championship finale.